Welcome everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, surprising discoveries, and the incredible stories that transform an ordinary piece of change into something worth millions. And today we are going to explore the mystery, the allure, and the unbelievable details surrounding the 1995 1-cent coin. A coin that to most people looks like just another penny, but in reality has a story so compelling that some versions of this coin have been rumored and documented to be worth as much as $16 million, a figure so staggering that it captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and ordinary people who suddenly start checking the coins in their pocket change, because what we're dealing with here is not just copper-plated zinc, not just a small disc struck by the Denver Mint in 1995, but rather a tiny artifact that through errors, mistakes, quirks of the minting process, and the unpredictability of numismatic history has become a legendary prize. And to understand why a 1995 penny could command a value in the millions, we have to start by looking at how these coins were made, what went wrong, what varieties exist, and how collectors interpret rarity and condition in ways that skyrocket the worth of certain examples. So picture the Denver Mint in 1995, massive presses stamping out hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, each meant to look the same. But no matter how advanced the minting technology becomes, the reality is that mistakes happen, dies wear out, planchets misalign, hub doubling occurs, and small imperfections creep into the process, and it is exactly these imperfections that transform some coins into treasures. For example, one of the most famous issues in the 1990s was the 1995 double-die penny from Philadelphia, but Denver had its own share of errors too. And while the 1995 penny was produced in massive numbers, a few rare and unusual mistakes have surfaced that carry extraordinary value, such as off-center strikes where the coin's design is only partially visible and a blank crescent of metal remains, which can fetch thousands, or coins struck on the wrong planchet, such as a penny design accidentally pressed on a dime blank, creating a coin of the wrong weight, thickness, and color, which drives collectors wild. And then there are double dies where Lincoln's profile, the inscriptions, or the date itself show dramatic doubling caused during the die creation process, a type of error so beloved by collectors that even minor examples can increase a coin's value by hundreds or thousands of times. And in the case of the 1995 1-cent coin, the presence of unusual doubled features combined with high-grade preservation and mint luster has created some of the most sought-after specimens. And when we talk about $16 million, we are not talking about an average circulated coin you'd find in your pocket. We are talking about a once-in-a-lifetime piece that combines multiple rare error types, immaculate condition certified by grading services at MS 68 or higher, and the added allure of a legendary backstory that keeps driving prices upward in private auctions, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and bragging rights. And the story of this coin connects with broader themes in American coinage, like how the composition of the cent changed in 1982 from copper to copper-plated zinc, which made coins more susceptible to plating errors, bubbling, and striking weaknesses, or how the massive mintages of the 1990s paradoxically hide the fact that among billions of coins only a handful are truly exceptional. So when a 1995 penny with a spectacular error surfaces, it stands out all the more. And think about the psychology of collecting, how human beings are driven to seek out the rare, the unusual, the one in a billion object that separates them from the crowd, and suddenly a penny that most people would toss into a jar without a second thought becomes the subject of fierce bidding wars, whispered rumors of discoveries, and dramatic headlines about everyday change being worth a fortune. And let's not forget the grading process, where coins are examined under microscopes by experts who assess strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and eye appeal. And a 1995 penny graded as MS 69 with an extraordinary error could easily justify astronomical valuations because of its sheer rarity. But beyond grading, there are the human stories, the tales of people who stumbled upon rare coins without even realizing their significance, like a child finding one in change at a grocery store, or an old collector rediscovering a forgotten roll of 1995 cents in a safety deposit box. And this human element adds romance to the tale, reminding us that great treasures can be hiding in plain sight. And as collectors and numismatists dig deeper, more possibilities come into play, such as transitional errors where a 1995 penny could have been struck on a leftover planchet from another year, or mule errors where mismatched dies were paired, producing a bizarre hybrid coin. And each of these scenarios pushes the boundaries of rarity, further driving up the potential price. And when experts or wealthy collectors get into bidding wars, the numbers can skyrocket far beyond what logic might suggest. Because the value of such a coin is not just its metal or its face value, it is a combination of rarity, demand, provenance, and the sheer thrill of owning something unique. So while many will scoff at the idea of a penny being worth $16 million, within the specialized world of numismatics it is not impossible, because value is a reflection of desire, and desire for rare coins has been proven to reach incredible heights, especially when combined with errors and mistakes that were never meant to exist. And when you think about it, the 1995 D penny becomes a kind of modern treasure map, a reminder that we live surrounded by potential riches we don't even notice, and the very act of looking closely at something as common as a penny can transform your perspective, making you realize that hidden within the everyday world are extraordinary wonders. So if you've ever held a 1995 D penny, take a moment to imagine that in some alternate universe it could be one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever. And perhaps that imagination is what drives so many to search their change, to examine each coin, to dream of the moment when a humble cent becomes a multimillion-dollar fortune. And as we wrap up this exploration, let's remember that the story of the 1995 D penny is not just about money, it's about the unpredictability of history, the magic of mistakes, and the enduring fascination of collectors who see beauty and value where others see only small change. So keep looking, keep searching, because you never know when the next coin in your hand might be worth not just a cent, but millions. And if you enjoyed this journey through coin history, rarity, and mystery, be sure to stay connected with us for more incredible stories that reveal the hidden treasures all around us. And until next time, keep your eyes open, your curiosity alive, and your appreciation for the extraordinary value of the ordinary stronger than ever. Next! Today we dive deep into one of the most extraordinary stories in American numismatic history, the legendary 1984 D1 cent coin rumored to be worth an astonishing $14 million because of the errors and mistakes that make it one of the most coveted pieces among collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike. And as we explore its value, we're not just looking at a simple coin but uncovering layers of history, craftsmanship, minting errors, and sheer luck that combined to create this once ordinary penny that turned into a priceless artifact. So sit back as we unravel how a coin designed to be worth just 1 cent could command a price tag in the millions, and why every detail from the minting process to the human mistakes behind its creation adds to its allure and mystique. And to understand the story, we need to remember that the 1984 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when billions of pennies were produced every year, most disappearing into circulation without anyone giving them a second thought. But hidden among those billions were coins with subtle mistakes that escaped the quality checks and ended up being released to the public, and it is precisely these errors that transformed an ordinary copper-coated zinc cent into a treasure chest of numismatic mystery. And among the most famous errors of the 1984 D penny is the double die obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait appears with extra outlines or shadows caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process when the die that strikes the coin shifts or presses twice, creating an unmistakable doubled appearance on Lincoln's features. And in this case, collectors have noted doubling on Lincoln's ear, famously referred to as that extra ear variety, which is one of the most desired and recognizable errors of the mid-1980s. And while many error coins are interesting, the 1984 doubled ear penny became iconic because of how clear the extra detail appears and how it draws collectors into believing they're holding something truly unique. And when you add the Denver Mint mark to the mix, it becomes even rarer, since fewer error coins from Denver survived compared to Philadelphia. And then there are other possibilities that add to the mystery, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchette, or blank metal disc, was not properly aligned under the press, leaving coins with partial images that intrigue collectors, or broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, resulting in a penny that looks stretched and unusual. And sometimes even wrong planchette errors occurred, meaning a penny design could accidentally be struck on a disc meant for another denomination, such as a dime or even a foreign coin, instantly increasing its rarity. And then there are die cracks and cuds, the small or large breaks in the die that leave raised lines or blobs on the coin's surface, each one different and each one transforming a mass-produced cent into a unique one-of-a-kind collectible. And when you combine these possibilities with the documented doubled ear variety, you see why the 1984 D penny has become a legend, with rumors and sales stories pushing its value to astronomical levels. And collectors who have searched rolls of pennies or jars of change for decades always dream of stumbling upon one because it represents the perfect blend of history, luck, and fortune. And imagine holding a penny in your hand, feeling its tiny weight, knowing that what seems like a mere cent could instead be worth a fortune, more than the price of luxury cars, mansions, or even an entire lifetime of earnings. And what makes this coin even more fascinating is how errors like these are born from human and mechanical imperfections, because the minting process, though largely automated, was not immune to flaws. And in the 1980s, the US Mint was still dealing with the challenges of mass production, as they had recently transitioned from mostly copper pennies to copper-coated zinc cents starting in 1982, which made them lighter and cheaper to produce but also introduced new complications in the striking process. So a coin like the 1984 D cent could show plating blisters where tiny bubbles form under the copper coating due to heat and pressure, and while these aren't always highly valuable on their own, when combined with more dramatic errors they add character and uniqueness. And another key factor is rarity, because although millions of pennies with the 1984 date were struck, very few with dramatic double die errors were produced, and fewer still were preserved in pristine condition, and this scarcity drives demand to unimaginable heights. And when collectors and investors compete for a coin of this caliber, auction prices can soar. And that's why stories circulate of a single 1984 D penny fetching as much as $14 million, and while such numbers seem surreal, they highlight how in the world of coin collecting, the right combination of rarity, condition, historical intrigue, and market demand can create seemingly impossible valuations. And consider how condition plays into this, because grading services like PCGS or NGC evaluate every detail of a coin under magnification, assigning it a grade that can drastically affect its worth, with a mint state coin displaying full original luster and nowhere commanding far higher prices than one with scratches or circulation marks. And if an error penny like the 1984 D doubled ear variety is found in top mint state condition, it immediately leaps into the stratosphere of value. And then there's the human element of storytelling, because collectors don't just buy coins, they buy the history and the story behind them. And the story of a coin that slipped through the strict protocols of the US Mint and emerged into circulation only to be discovered decades later as a treasure worth millions is captivating in itself, and that story adds emotional weight to its market value. And when word spreads of one coin being valued at $14 million, it sparks a frenzy among the public, who begin searching their jars, drawers, and piggy banks hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper-coated zinc. And the beauty of this is that it keeps the hunt alive, inspiring new generations of collectors who marvel at how a simple 1-cent coin from 1984 could change someone's life forever, and beyond just the double die or the extra ear variety. Numismatists speculate about other possible Denver-struck oddities from that year that may still be out there undiscovered, hidden in pocket change or forgotten in old collections, and this possibility creates an air of mystery around the 1984 D penny, making it not just a coin but a legend. And legends are powerful forces in markets, driving demand, fueling bidding wars, and creating astonishing price records. And if we look back at past auction results, we see how rare Lincoln cents have shocked the world before, with coins like the 1943 copper penny selling for hundreds of thousands or even millions, proving that extraordinary value is not reserved for gold or silver but can also belong to humble pennies when they carry the mark of rarity and error. And the 1984 D penny sits firmly in this tradition as a shining example of how imperfection can become perfection in the eyes of collectors. And as we continue this story, we must remember that behind every valuable error coin is the invisible hand of chance, a machine operator who didn't notice a double die, a mint worker who missed a misalignment, a process that allowed a mistake to slip into circulation, and without those human and mechanical oversights the coin would have been just another forgotten penny. And this is what makes it so thrilling, because its value is not just in its metal or design but in the accident of its creation, an accident that transformed it into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And if you think about it deeply, it's almost poetic that a coin meant to symbolize the working man, with Lincoln's steady gaze reminding Americans of unity and resilience, could itself embody the unpredictability of fortune, reminding us that even in mass production there is room for uniqueness, and sometimes that uniqueness leads to unimaginable wealth. And as we wrap our minds around the idea of a $14 million penny, we realize that its worth is not just in its rarity, but also in the passion it inspires, the communities of collectors it unites, the thrill of discovery it fuels, and the sheer wonder it brings to anyone who hears the story. And this is why the 1984 D1 cent has become more than a coin. It has become a symbol of how history, error, and human fascination can collide to create something priceless. So the next time you hold a penny from the 1980s, take a close look, because who knows, you might just be holding the next great discovery that could change your life forever. And with that thought, I invite you to continue exploring with us, to share in the passion for coins and history. And if you enjoyed this journey into the incredible story of the 1984 D penny and its rumored $14 million value, make sure to stay connected with our channel, because there are countless more stories waiting to be told, each coin with its own secrets, each mistake with its own fortune. And together we'll uncover them one by one, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating explorations into the world where the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises. Today on this exciting journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, because in this video we are going to explore one of the most fascinating stories from the world of numismatics, the 1995 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that for most people is just loose change, but in reality in some rare cases has been valued as high as $7 million due to its rare errors, minting mistakes, and the extraordinary possibilities that come with those flaws which transform a common everyday coin into something that collectors around the globe would pay fortunes to own. And to truly understand why a coin like this could achieve such astronomical worth, we need to break down the history, the process, the mistakes, and the allure of errors in coin collecting. Because the 1995 penny itself comes from a year in which the United States Mint was still striking billions of Lincoln cents primarily from zinc with a thin copper plating, following the change that took place in 1982 when copper became too expensive to use as the main composition. And in the process of striking so many coins, billions upon billions, errors were inevitable. But every now and then an error coin emerges that is not just a small slip but something dramatic enough to make collectors stop in their tracks. And one of the most famous error varieties associated with the 1995 1-cent is the so-called double die obverse, a coin that appears to have doubled lettering on its surface due to a misalignment in the die-making process. And although not every double die coin is worth millions, certain specimens in pristine condition, especially those with clear, strong doubling on the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, become legendary among collectors, and the 1995 double die penny is one of those legends. Because collectors see in it not only the beauty of an accidental creation but also the story of how a minting error can elevate the status of an otherwise ordinary coin into an object of incredible desire. And when you consider why this coin has been rumored or even sold for millions, it is largely due to a combination of rarity, demand, historical significance, and the condition in which the coin has survived. Because let's imagine a coin that slips through the production line, shows dramatic doubling of the inscriptions, has an unusually clean strike with no signs of wear, survives decades without entering circulation, and finally ends up in the hands of a collector or auction house where two or more wealthy buyers are determined to own it at any cost. Suddenly the value skyrockets, and even though the base metal in the coin is only worth a fraction of a cent, its market worth becomes tied to the psychology of collecting, the rarity of the error, and the willingness of buyers to spend vast sums of money for bragging rights. And this is exactly what happened with the 1995 1-cent in certain high-profile cases. Which is why stories circulate of examples being valued at or even sold for as much as $7 million, because rarity in coin collecting is not only about how many were minted but how many survive in top condition with the desired error. And the 1995 double die penny is famous for having thousands of examples in circulation but only a small percentage that are in flawless mint state condition. And as those high-grade examples become fewer and fewer with time, their value only increases. And it is not just the double die error that gives the 1995 1-cent its allure, but also the possibility of off-center strikes, clip planchets, broad strikes, wrong planchette strikes, and other unusual minting mistakes that can dramatically boost the value of an ordinary penny. Because imagine finding a 1995 cent that was accidentally struck on a dime planchette, smaller and thinner than intended, or one that was misaligned so that part of the design is missing, or one that shows multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once by the press. Each of these varieties attracts a different type of collector, and when the coin combines multiple errors, the value grows exponentially. And that is how a coin worth 1 cent in face value could ever be valued at millions, because rarity plus condition plus collector demand equals astronomical prices. And when discussing why the 1995 penny has become such a legend, we also need to think about the broader fascination with coins in general, because coins are more than just money. They are historical artifacts, pieces of art, and symbols of national identity. And when one of those symbols has a flaw, it captures the imagination, because people love imperfections when they tell a story. And the 1995 double die penny tells a story of human error in a mechanical process, of how even in a system designed for precision, mistakes happen, and those mistakes can become treasures. And collectors are storytellers at heart. They do not just buy coins for the metal, they buy the history, the story, the uniqueness, and the bragging rights of owning something no one else has. And when it comes to the 1995 1 cent, the story is especially powerful because it is tied to the Lincoln cent, one of the most beloved and longest-running coin designs in United States history, with Abraham Lincoln's profile gracing the obverse since 1909, and the memorial reverse running from 1959 to 2008, meaning the 1995 penny is part of a design series that millions of Americans grew up with in their pockets, making it instantly familiar yet hiding in plain sight the possibility of an extraordinary rarity, and that paradox, that a coin that everyone knows could be worth millions if it has the right era, makes it even more thrilling for collectors, because it means that at any moment someone could pull a 1995 penny out of circulation or a jar of change and discover a treasure. And there are countless stories of people doing just that, searching through rolls of pennies, finding one with doubled lettering, and realizing they are holding something extraordinary, and that dream of turning pocket change into a fortune is what fuels the coin hobby, and specifically the legend of the 1995 double-die penny. And if we look deeper into the minting process, we can see why such errors happen, because coins are made by striking blank discs of metal called planchets with dies that carry the design, and those dies themselves are created by transferring the design from a master hub, and if the hubbing process involves more than one impression and the die shifts slightly between impressions, a double die is created, meaning every coin struck by that die will show doubling, and that is exactly what happened in 1995, leading to thousands of double die cents entering circulation, but only a select few surviving in pristine mint state, and when those survivors are discovered, they are sent for grading by professional services that certify the authenticity of the error and assign a grade, and once graded, the coin's value skyrockets because collectors trust certified coins, and this is why auctions for 1995 double die cents in high grades have seen such competitive bidding, pushing prices higher and higher, and in rare cases leading to valuations of millions, because coin auctions are driven not just by the technical value of the coin but by the emotions of the bidders. And if two or more wealthy collectors decide they must own a coin at any cost, the price can spiral into the millions, and that is what gives the 1995 1 cent its mythical $7 million status. And as we reflect on why this coin matters, we also recognize that it symbolizes the magic of coin collecting, the idea that treasure is all around us, waiting to be found, that an object as small and humble as a penny can change someone's life, and that stories like these inspire people around the world to start checking their change, to learn about coins, and to dream of finding their own fortune. And whether or not you ever come across a 1995 double-die penny worth millions, the very possibility that it could be out there adds excitement to everyday life, and that is why the legend endures, why collectors chase it, and why the 1995 1 cent with its double-die and other rare errors continues to captivate the imagination of so many, because it is not just about money, it is about discovery, history, and the thrill of the hunt. And as we close this journey into the story of the 1995 penny, remember that even the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises, and that a single cent, if unique enough, can be worth $7 million. And with that, I want to thank you for being part of this exploration, and if you enjoyed learning about the hidden treasure in your pocket change, make sure to stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins, because you never know when the next penny you find might just be worth a fortune. So keep searching, keep collecting, and keep dreaming, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing discoveries.